There's so much chaos going on in the world right now, and we realise like half of these material things, they just do not matter. They don't matter. What matters is connection. We're human beings. At the end of the day, we're put on this earth like not to work in banks, not to be like making businesses richer. We're here to help each other grow. But I think maybe somewhere along the way we've forgotten about it. And it's great that I guess our generation, we're questioning things, but then that means for the generation after that, they can actually properly make some tangible differences, hopefully.
Gen Z are really seeking truth, and I feel like everyone's journey is different, but I think everyone is really looking for the truth. And when it comes to religion, I always used to think religion was a negative thing, and I always used to say, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm spiritual, I have faith, but I'm not religious, because I thought religion was just super negative. But then recently, I started to look into the word religion and what it actually means. And in Latin, it actually means to reconnect. And it's like reconnecting with God. And it's like, wow, when I understood that, I was like, religion is actually something positive when you understand the meaning of it and what it was actually created to do. It was created to connect us to God. But I feel like in the world, in this generation, it's been used to almost like cause division and like wars between each other. But really the ultimate goal of it is to be reconnected to God and the truth of that.
100% agree with you. I mean, God can be found anywhere. If you want to go to a church, like a place of worship, that's beautiful, if that's where you feel the connection, or if you just want to go for a walk in the park, or if you want to spend time with your family, your friends, like any sort of loved one, anything that gives you joy, and you're doing things with like the best intentions, I guess, and always like just hoping for the best for other people, also like practicing what you preach type vibes, like don't gossip, don't lie, whatever it is. But yeah, I see your point about like wanting to go for connection and connecting with God.
I'm glad for what you said about religion, because as soon as someone says, like, what do you believe in? I'll say, I'm a Christian. Sometimes I don't even necessarily like saying that. I'd rather just say I follow Jesus, because there's so many people that have been hurt by religious people or hurt by the church. And I think a lot of people have turned away from God because of how the church has hurt them. And I'm seeing so many people recently, they're just searching for peace. Like, that's what I believe God gives us is peace, that they're searching for peace, and that's what they're longing for. And they're finding it in faith, and that they don't need to necessarily be in a church building to have that connection with God.
What's your standpoint, say, with like religion and faith?
I actually was raised Christian as well. And I feel like ever since I was a child, I don't think religion really resonated with me. I started off as a Christian, and then I think as I begun to look into what Christianity represented versus what it looked like for me in the real world, I just felt like things didn't add up for me. So I learned so much about God and God's love and like how we're all made in his likeness and image. And that's something that I really wanted to believe. But I feel like as I started to kind of see how people would weaponize Christianity, like you said, and like hurt others and the damage that it could do, I kind of felt like maybe religion isn't for me. And I guess that kind of ties into how today a lot of Gen Z are either becoming more religious or becoming more spiritual. And I would say I've lent quite heavily into being more spiritual, because I feel like I can have faith and you can be like a believer in something higher, but it doesn't have to be attached to an organized system or set of like practices, you know? So I will say like my relationship with Christianity has been, it hasn't been like painful per se. So, because a lot of people would assume that you've been through something really tough, and that's why you're like not able to like go back into the church. But for me, I just felt like I needed something that it was more personal to me, you know, and I could build my own relationship without needing anyone else to tell me like how to do it and whether it's right or wrong, and there's no shame attached to it. So yeah, I feel like now that spiritual kind of way of life resonates with me a lot more than me being religious.
Do you think it's like because of the hypocrisy you may have seen?
Yeah.
So like my favorite quote is like, some people
you may be the only Bible people get to read.
Yeah.
So if you see people in the church and like they're on the altar preaching, as soon as they step down, they're a complete different person. You being a real normal person, you're supposed to question things. That's the whole point. And if you can't, and it's like, just believe, like everything I say, believe it and follow. Don't follow as I do, just follow as I say. That's probably pushed a lot of people away. And maybe that's like growing up in the church, people might think, oh, you must be super religious. No, actually the opposite. Look at that.
So I was just saying, I don't also think it's like our role models' fault, because that's how they were raised. At least we are the generation where we can question things and actually say, yeah, but hold on, you're telling me to do this in blind faith like you did and like how you were kind of raised. But why do we have to do this? Why do we have to respect our elders if they're not very nice people?
Are we all Christians here, or?
I mean, I respect all religions, and I just kind of sway more into the spiritual side of things. And I think what that means for me, because obviously it's a unique experience for everyone, is just being a good person, doing good, being good, and like trying to help other people in any way you can. And if that means being a good Christian or a good Muslim or a good Hindu, whatever it is, that's kind of the fundamentals of most of these religions. But I just think I don't want to put a label on things, because that's where I think things get a bit too messy. And I think also follow whoever it is you want to follow. It doesn't need, like, if it's Jesus, that's amazing, but it doesn't need to be the entire religion. It could be just like your own unique experience with whatever you believe God is, because we all say God is good. We all say God is almighty. So fundamentally, what I believe is all of these religions are the same, and there's just one incredible source that's kind of shedding light and love to everyone, and we just have to be receptive and kind of open ourselves up to it. And once we do, then it's like an absolute rainbow, and then it's pouring on us because you've opened yourself up to that type of love.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you've taken the same concepts of, like, you know, love is patient, love is kind, and you've just applied it basically to source, which I'd say is pretty similar to me. Like, I just feel like God is love, you know, and that's like where in spirituality you don't necessarily need to assign any set like activity to it. It's just more your philosophy of, like you said, loving one another, being a good person, you know, actually just making sure that you're doing what you can do to make the world a better place. So yeah, I'd say I'm spiritually inclined that way as well.
It's crazy because if you think about it, like later on in life, if this is the direction some people go in, they're like raising babies and raising new humans and a new generation. And it's almost like just grow into just being a good person. That's like our responsibility almost to steer the next generation into just be a good person. That's fundamentally all that matters. Like, there's so much chaos going on in the world right now, and we realize like half of these material things, they just do not matter. They don't matter. What matters is connection. We're human beings at the end of the day. We're put on this earth like not to work in banks, not to be like making businesses richer. We're here to help each other grow. But I think maybe somewhere along the way we've forgotten about it. And it's great that, I guess, our generation, we're questioning things, but then that means for the generation after that, they can actually properly make some tangible differences, hopefully.
Yeah. For you, what makes a good person? Like, what sets the standard? Because in different opinions, we're all trying to be a good person. What does being a good person look like?
That's a fair point, but it's all subjective. Like, it just depends on where you are on your path. Because, like, it would be great if we could look at everyone as good people. But there are people in the world that are, like, you know, throwing bombs on innocent countries. Are they good? I don't know. But, like, he might have a different bench to who else is good. Do you know what I mean? It just, I guess, depends on you just wanting to make a difference to yourself. And even if it's like the tiniest little centimetre step, you're a better person than you were yesterday. So yeah, you're a good person. You're not doing crazy things anymore. I don't know.
You kind of going like, who do we judge ourselves to?
Yeah, what is it?
And that's reason why I follow Jesus, because that's an easy way to guide how close or far I am. Because in essence, everything can be subjective. But if everything's subjective, then like, if everything's always good, then there's no bad. It's like you need like entropy, there is good without bad and vice versa, but then you need at least a standard to hold yourself to. And if there isn't one, then everything could be like, well, I think I'm good because I'm, in your example, bombing this country because it's helping these people. And if you're constantly like changing the goalposts, then there are no goalposts. There is no good or bad. Everything's just what we deem it to be.
I think for me, I completely appreciate your point, and I think it's amazing that you have that strong outlook. It's very true. But I think for me, it's about we are powerful ourselves. We are a source of the Almighty. Like we're magic in ourselves. And what we can actually do, knowing that we've got God behind us, is incredible. And so it's like throughout our journey, every step of the way, we're getting more information, we're getting more downloads, we're getting more connection time with God, Almighty Source, whatever it is you want to call it. And so you're continuously growing on that journey, but that kind of comes from within you and God through you. So yeah, it's God, of course, but it's also you, you know?
Would you find it easier than if there was like a yardstick to see, like, because it's hard to like make something tangible when it's like
It's floating in the air.
yeah,
I get it.
in that,
Yeah.
like when, say spirituality is very much like the universe, would you say like you believe in the universe?
Yeah.
So then like, what does where is like the yardstick of like measuring of like, are you following the universe to what the universe is saying to you?
I get what you're saying, but why does there have to be like a measurement? It can just be like because for me, if I know I'm going to be measured to something, that bring me a lot of nerves, because then it's like, well, what if I'm not quite meeting the expectation? Am I then a good person? For me, how I operate, I don't work with measurements. It's almost like if my parents tell me to do something, I'm like, no, don't tell me what to do. I want to do something else. And that's obviously not the right way to be. But that's kind of the person I am. Yeah. So it's like every day I just want to be doing more good, and I want to be more in realization of what I'm thinking and what my thought patterns are, and then try actively to change that and rewire the way I think.
I think it starts with empathy. I don't think anybody is wholly good or bad, or anything really is wholly good or bad. Like you said, some people do terrible things and think they're doing good because in their own head, somehow it's, beneficial. But I think if we start with empathy, how is what I'm doing making others feel? How is what I'm doing impacting others? I think when we kind of remove ourselves and our ego from the equation, if you aren't religious, obviously I think Jesus is a great example, but if you aren't religious, really pay attention to how you affect others. I don't think it's hard to look at someone and see if you've upset them, or see if you even feel bad about doing something. And a lot of morality is decided by the society you live in, right? So what we might consider okay might not be okay elsewhere, but which is, like you said, what makes it so hard, because it's hard, you can't really quantify it. But yeah, good for me would be, have I done what I can do to improve this thing or this person or this experience? And is it true to my own values? Would those who I respect and respect me feel the same way?